to the Chancellor in absentia, Mr. Trevor Manuel, the Chairperson of Council, Mr. Mbulelo Bikani, members of Council, Vice Chancellor Dr. Prince Nevutalu, members of the Executive Management, Deans of Faculties, Academic and Administrative Staff, graduates, parents, families, and friends of graduates, distinguished guests. I stand here today in front of you representing your invited guest speaker, the Group Chief Executive of Transnet, Mr. Brian Molefe. Mr. Brian Molefe, regrettably and with a deep sense of disappointment, could not be here with us today because he has had to be called to an urgent engagement. He has asked me to deliver his prepared speech, which he dearly would have loved to have been here with you today to deliver the speech. Now, the message and the content of the speech is something which is sincere and comes from the heart of Mr. Molefe, who I work very closely with. So, Mr. Vice Chancellor, any problems with emphasis or presentation are purely mine, and it's only the good things out of the speech that credit has to go to Mr. Brian Molefe. Open quote, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair." Close quote. With this memorable opening, the English author Charles Dickens summed up his intense feelings about an epochal event that shook the very foundations of the world we live in. This was in his book, A Tale of Two Cities. The event was the French Revolution, which started with the storming of the Bastille in Paris on the morning of 14th July 1789. The impact of the French Revolution, which lasted until 1799, was felt just 40 kilometers from here with the Battle of Muizenberg in 1795 between the British and Dutch forces loyal to the French royalists. The British won that particular battle, allowing them to gain a foothold in the Cape. The war cry of the French Revolution, "Liberté, égalité et fraternité," freedom, equality and fraternity, has echoed through the ages everywhere where men and women have been oppressed, dispossessed and enslaved. From the African slaves of Haiti throwing off the chains of their French oppressors to the formation of the Liberian Republic in 1847, also by former African slaves, this battle cry was heard loud and clear. The world changed after the French Revolution. Progressive people all over the world realized the need to free humanity from the grip of tyranny. 60 years ago, on the 26th of June, 1955, thousands of South Africans adopted the Freedom Charter in Kliptown, Johannesburg, at a gathering called the Congress of the People. The Freedom Charter was and remains a vision for a united, non-racial, and democratic South Africa. A close examination of the Freedom Charter reveals a strong resemblance in both style and substance to another celebrated historical document, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, which was adopted by France's National Constituent Assembly in 1789 and is considered a fundamental document of the French Revolution. South Africa's Freedom Charter and the French Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen were informed by the French Revolution slogan of liberté, égalité et fraternité, freedom, equality, and fraternity. Countless men and women of different races and nationalities have lost their lives to uphold the principles of those tattered and well-traveled pieces of paper. 21 years since South Africa's Bastille moment, the noble concepts of freedom, equality, and fraternity are under threat, not from 19th century tyrants and colonizers, but from the social evils of poverty, unemployment, inequality, and dare I say, xenophobia. The protracted encounter with poverty that is a reality for the majority of South Africans is not consistent with the idea of freedom. Poverty takes away the freedom to be educated, to be healthy, and to contribute meaningfully to the development of society. Unemployment feeds into poverty and perpetuates the stigma that South Africa has of having one of the most unequal societies in the world. Inequality breeds contempt and unhappiness that will cause social instability. The recent xenophobic attacks in parts of our country are an affront to the idea of fraternity, of brotherhood, of Ubuntu. Chancellor, it is my contention that the most important task of the generation that is graduating today is to be vigilant, to protect our freedom, our liberty, and our Ubuntu, lest they be usurped by poverty, unemployment, inequality, and xenophobia. Today, as you take your places in the world, the words of Charles Dickens still ring true, just as much as they did 200 years ago. We are indeed living in both the best and worst of times. It will be up to you to bring out the best of our communities and our society. We are surrounded equally by wisdom and by foolishness. Society will look to you for the wisdom to overcome our difficulties. We continue to experience hope and despair in equal measure. We will be looking to you to give us hope and leadership. One of the men who sacrificed their lives so that we could live in freedom and democracy was Chris Hani, a brave soldier, a revolutionary, a thinker, a freedom fighter. He was assassinated on the 10th of April 1993, of which we sadly honored the 22nd anniversary only last week. His assassination was tragic enough, but what makes it even more poignant was that he never lived to see the first democratic elections held in our country on the 27th of April 1994. Hani was unsparing in his selfless assessment of himself when he said, open quote, "I have never wanted to spare myself because I feel there are people who are no longer around and died for this struggle. What right do I have to hold back, to rest, to preserve my health, to have time with my family when there are other people who are no longer alive, when they sacrificed what is precious, namely life itself?" Close quote. It is my hope that the graduates today will take Hani's example to heart, as you refuse to hold back in the struggle against poverty, inequality, and xenophobia, which are threatening freedom, equality, and fraternity in Africa. At Transnet, we have embraced these challenges wholeheartedly. In April 2012, we launched our rolling capital expenditure program, which we call the Market Demand Strategy, or the MDS. It is a rolling 7-year, 330 billion rand infrastructure investment program. Last year, we announced the award of a 50 billion rand contract for the building of 1,064 diesel and electric locomotives to 4 global original equipment manufacturers. Last month, we celebrated the successful completion of the first batch of electrical locomotives produced at Transnet's manufacturing and engineering facility at Kuduspoort, Pretoria, confirming our advance towards our goal of ourselves becoming an original equipment manufacturer. The program to build 95 electrical locomotives was executed in partnership with an original equipment manufacturer from abroad. The production program was completed in a record 12 months, in the process exceeding all technology and skills transfer targets. As part of our market demand strategy, we are also spending 7.7 billion rand on training as part of our employment and skills development program, including 4.7 billion rand on bursaries and grants. We have established a number of training schools for specialist training. They are School of Engineering, which focuses on artisan and apprentice training such as welding, fitting, mechatronics, etc. School of Rail, which focuses on rail-related training such as train driver, train control officer, etc. Maritime School of Excellence focuses on maritime-related training such as cargo coordinators, operators of lifting equipment, skipper port operations, marine pilots, etc. School of Security, which focuses on protection officer training. School of Leadership, which focuses on leadership development programs and area-specific programs such as internal audit, supply chain, project management, property management, etc. School of Pipelines focuses on petrochemical and oil and gas related training programs. We have trained many students, not just from South Africa, but from countries such as Malawi, Botswana, Mozambique, Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. We also have set aside R1 billion for research and development. This is a substantial amount of money towards R&D, but we believe it is vitally important to do so because of the value we place on this critical sector. It will allow us to improve our technologies, to innovate, and to move forward as a country. The research and development team has already managed to recruit 110 top-performing students from all major universities in South Africa, established key partnerships with top international research institutions, and signed co-development and technology transfer deals with international manufacturers. This team of engineers will grow to 400 by 2019. We need to produce our own researchers and thinkers, people who can develop practical and innovative solutions to our problems. As Albert Einstein once said, open quote, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them," close quote. We at Transnet count ourselves as extremely fortunate that we are able to shape the future of our nation as we are doing. In 1906, a young man stood up and gave a brilliant speech at Columbia University in the United States of America. In it, he said, open quote, "The brighter day is rising upon Africa. Already I seem to see her chains dissolved, her desert plains red with harvest, her Abyssinia and her Zululand, the seats of science and religion, reflecting the glory of the rising sun from the spires of their churches and universities. Her Congo and her Gambia whitened with commerce, her crowded cities sending forth the hum of business, and all her sons and daughters employed in advancing the victories of peace greater and more abiding than the spoils of war." Close quote. The person who wrote those words was a 25-year-old African from Inanda in KwaZulu-Natal. His name was Pixley Kaisaka Seme. At 17 years of age, Pixley Seme left South Africa to study in the US, first at the Mount Hermon School and then Columbia University. He received the George William Curtis Medal for the speech, the university's highest honor for oratory. It was his graduation speech. Pixley Seme's vision should serve as an inspiration for us all. The brighter day has risen above Africa. Our time is now. The onus is on each and everyone in this room to ensure that our centers of learning soar into the sky, that our streets hum with the sound of business, and that we are forever advancing peace over war. One of my favorite poems is by the Tanzanian poet Richard Mabala, which captures this essence. It is called The Socialists. Open quote. "I am a socialist," he muttered gently, sinking softly into the sighting depths of the cushioned chairs of the Kilimanjaro Hotel. Traditional African socialism. Work by all for the good of all. Socialism is an attitude of mind. He continued, gazing lovingly at the golden whiskey in his glass. I'm a peasant and a worker. We must all sacrifice to build this great nation of ours. I am a socialist, he intoned piously, glaring balefully at the captive audience. Hushed beneath the shadow of the pulpit, Christian socialism of the Bible. Love your neighbor as yourself. The church and socialism are one, he continued, eyes raised to pierce the vault of heaven. The priest is the servant of the servants of God. Let us work side by side, my beloved brethren. I am a socialist, he cried fiercely. Clenched fist raised menacingly at the sky. Revolutionary, Marxist, Leninist. The history of the world is the history of class struggle, he continued, beard quivering fervently as sign of his commitment. The petty bourgeoisie must commit suicide as a class and unite with the peasant and workers in their historic struggle. I had been afraid to draw close, dressed as I was in working clothes. But fired by such moving words of commitment, I approached each Ndugu and asked him if he would spare a few hours to help us dig our new irrigation ditch. The bureaucrat's belly quivered gently, and he talked of division of labor, and he remembered an urgent meeting demanding his attendance. The priest nervously fingered his beards, talked of the special nature of a priest's vocation, and said he must leave to work on the serious problem of declining church revenues. The student cast me a ferocious look, told me I didn't understand the meaning of class struggle, and stormed off to write his essay, Passport to an Office Job. Disappointed, I turned away and only regained heart when I reached the village. There they were in the ditch, djembes singing in unison. There they were, peasants, workers, yes, and many more. I watched them briefly and, heartened, took my place by their side, inspired by their example, to work harder, myself, in the sacred task of building the nation. By their deeds you shall know them. Close quote. Africa's resurgence will not be realized if we are like the bureaucrat with a quivering belly who suddenly remembers his urgent meetings when a trench has to be dug. The priest with a special vocation to work on the serious problem of church revenues when the poor need him. Or the student who, in his pursuit of a passport to an office job, neglects to be involved in nation building. We should all take our place by the side of the poor, inspired by their example, to work harder in the sacred task of rebuilding our continent. I thank you.